AM560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM560. The Answer.
I really am looking forward to talking to this gentleman, although I assume he's a gentleman. We'll find out. On the trucking and the illegals, this is a very serious and very big thing in my book. This is AM560, The Answer, Chicago's Morning Answer. Chris Crock in for Dan Proft. He's back after the holidays. I get to be with you today, then again on Friday. Our number, of course, 312-642-5600. This safer highways start with enforcement of training standards in the Washington Examiner. And we're going to have on now Andy Poliakoff. Is that right? Poliakoff, right, Andy?
Good morning to you. Yeah, Poliakoff.
Okay, Poliakoff. Thank you. Good Russian name, probably. Am I accurate on that?
From about 120 years ago. You got
There we go. There we go. Executive Director of the Commercial Vehicle Training Association, CVTA. All right, how dangerous are these vehicles? Because the biggest thing that I've seen in all this with illegals and driving big rigs, number one, in the Panhandle of Texas, they did a sting with ICE, and they found about 30% of all the truckers that they pulled over and did an inspection on are illegals. Wyoming, a sheriff up there did a sting, and it was about 33% of the truckers. Oklahoma did a sting. They pulled over every trucker. On the first day, they had so many truckers that got busted, they had to shut it down. After 3 hours, they got 7 trucks impounded, and the lot was full. 3 days later, they come back. They have a much bigger lot, 17 trucks in one day. By the end of the week, all the illegals were rerouting around Oklahoma. We see a death in Florida, allegedly at the hands of an illegal driving a truck, doing a freaking jackknife, like a U-turn.
Yep.
And you see a minivan or something of that nature go right underneath his cab, or not his cab, but what's that called? The trailer. And and they go underneath the trailer, and he's looking at it like he's staring at roadkill, like everything's kind of normal, just kind of like, that's interesting. We have separately in California another illegal who allegedly is driving intoxicated and is at full bore speed or something of that nature, fast, coming in on stop-and-go traffic, slamming into cars, crushing, and it's disintegrating and blowing up one of these cars, killing a beloved local high school basketball coach. Up in Portland, Oregon, just north of Portland, I fill in there regularly too, and it happened on Thanksgiving, and I said, that's got to be an illegal. Something bad happened on the road with a truck, and 2 people died, and came out a week or two ago. That person is illegal, too. They're killing us all over the place. How dangerous are these vehicles, first of all? How heavy are they? How hard are they to stop before we even get into the illegals driving them?
Yeah, absolutely. 80,000 pounds, and they are missiles. And in the hands of someone who isn't properly trained or is just out to lunch, I mean, they are absolutely deadly. And I really appreciate you laying all of that out there in terms of, the exposure and sort of the transparency and awareness that's going on in the nation based on some of these tragedies. And no one, I mean, these are tragic events. I'm hopeful, though, and there are some strong indicators that, under the leadership of Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, that a lot is happening, though, because of this. Transparency, sunlight is really the best disinfectant. And we are now seeing, the curtains thrown open, and we are seeing a whole lot of sunlight and a whole lot of cooperation and participation all across the nation because of the understanding of this. So just to give you a little bit of background, I work for the Commercial Vehicle Training Association. It's the largest association of professional truck driver training programs in the United States. In order to become a member of our organization, you have to pass through an oversight committee, submit your curriculum, your course outline, do an interview. You have to be one of the good ones. But what we've seen across the nation for some time now is a proliferation of these, 2-day training, 3-day training schools, absolutely abysmal CDL mills. And what we're seeing now is because of the rise in understanding across the country of these tragic events, we are seeing good folks like the Secretary of Transportation and the head of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, Administrator Chief Bars. We're seeing folks like that really take this front and center and crack down on these CDL mills. And I want to give folks out there a piece of good news is that amid all these tragedies and, terrible events, we saw at the beginning of December, for the first time in the almost 4 years of these rules being in effect across the nation of the enforcement of these training standards, we saw boots on the ground, in-person random audits of over 1,500 locations all across the country.
Thank God.
I'm pleased to say that CVTA schools passed with flying colors, but to these 2-day training, 3-day training organizations, whatever you want to call them, CDL mills, they were running for cover, and that's the sunlight, and that's really what's going on. It's a pity that it's due to all of these tragedies, but we're hopeful that this is going to bring awareness to all of this across many different areas that need oversight.
On these CDL mills, commercial driver license mills, don't we know who they are, and why can't we shut them freaking down? They're killing us on our roads and letting illegals who don't speak English. First of all, they have no business having a driver license in most states. They certainly have no business having a commercial driver license. I assume you can't be an illegal and get a CDL. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but let me finish off real fast. And then let alone they don't speak English. How come we can't shut these places down?
Well, so a lot of it has been the fact that, when you come up with the federal regulation, and I'm here in, right outside of Washington, D.C., and, there are a lot of good intentions that go on in the congressional space and in the regulatory space here, but things take often a long time to get up and running, especially in the federal government in terms of regulations. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing. And in this instance, here's an area where we're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of what's called ELDT, or the entry-level driver training regulations. Those have been enforceable federal law for almost 4 years, and yet we did not see action. Okay, that's what the Commercial Vehicle Training Association, CVTA, we've been working on with our task force for 4 years, if not more, in order to try and persuade the federal government to actually enforce the rules that were on the books. Okay, and what's happened is, from afar, from Washington, D.C., federal agencies weren't able to sort of put together a game plan for actual oversight. And it took, some of these tragedies that you described earlier in the conversation for, just the impetus and the energy to come about. And that's why we're grateful to see the actions on the part of the Secretary of Transportation. But it takes real action to do something. You have to do these boots on the ground audits. You can't just sit there in Washington, D.C. and imagine that just because you have some electronic database, you necessarily can really oversee or regulate an industry properly. So that's, and one of the things I will say, I give big credit to the head of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, Administrator Bars. He has a 20-year background with the Florida Highway Patrol. Right. And so him coming into that role within USDOT, I think makes a big difference. Someone with a law enforcement background. These aren't guys who just want to sit, in an office in Washington, D.C. and sort of hope for the best. They are saying, it was extraordinary to see over 1,500 in-person boots on the ground audits conducted by the USDOT with over 300 inspectors. This is what we need, and it's what we're seeing.
Sean Duffy does look like he's been doing an incredible job from where I sit. You agree too, pretty much?
Oh, absolutely. Former prosecutor. I think that's what you need in this sort of spaces. He's a former prosecutor. You have Administrator Bars, who's 20 years as the chief of the Highway Patrol there in Florida. And so both of those people coming together, I think, is a real synergy in terms of them just saying, we're not just going to sit here in Washington, D.C. and check boxes. We're going to get it done.
Andy Poliakoff, Executive Director of the Commercial Vehicle Training Association. I have a lot more that I want to talk to you about. 52% of New York CDLs are to illegals is something I heard from, I believe, from Secretary Duffy. Also, we're seeing that 20 these illegals from India are suing California and the government for taking away their CDLs. I mean, this is laughable. Is that accurate? An accurate figure for New York? Second of all, my estimations, as I mentioned to you earlier, about 30% of all CDL drivers could be illegals right now on our roads. You tell me what you think about that. And then this lawsuit from Indian illegals is laughable. There's no way they're going to do anything on this. Is that right from where you sit too?
Yeah, let's hit the first one first. I think the critical thing here is that what we've seen, especially in the space that we work in commercial vehicle training and licensing, that has a lot of nexus to that, obviously. And so what you see is that, again, under this current administration, especially because of the executive order that the Trump administration put out some months ago on English language proficiency, you saw an audit process initiated by the federal government under the Secretary of Transportation. And that's where you've started to see some of these shocking data figures like the one you're referencing in New York, where the federal government, US DOT, has come in and done audits on the state driver's license agencies and found that, yes, there have been, not a lot of attention paid necessarily to the practices and, activities of these licensing, agencies within the states. Now, there are a lot of great people at these state licensing agencies that care deeply, deeply, deeply about making sure that things are done right. But, there are instances where, for a variety of reasons, we've seen, yes, people who have had their, authorization to be in the United States legally that was about to expire or had already expired, granted, I think it was in New York, an 8-year commercial driver's license. Like, what? That's just lunacy, right? And so you've seen that as a result of, arguments between US DOT and California, in New York and other locations. And then the threat of and the actual, withholding of funds by the federal government to these states if they don't either enforce English language proficiency appropriately or, get their licensing operations under, really, more tightly in bound. And I think this is something that we have been pounding the table on at CVTA for years. We have seen this proliferation of these CDL mills, these bad actor organizations that offer 2-day training, 3-day training. And this is essentially just all part of the same need for actual oversight and actual will.
Question: Why aren't we shutting these CDL mills where illegals are getting driver licenses, CDLs, in a day or two? Why aren't we shutting them down? Why can't we shut them down if we're trying to? And this is a huge question for you. Are illegals, which appear to be as many as 30% of the drivers from my estimate for CDLs, are illegals undercutting truckers' pay? And who are they hauling for that is apparently knowingly hiring illegals to drive, 80,000 pounds on the road that could kill one of us and is killing people all over this country?
Well, there are hundreds of thousands of motor carriers that are listed on the rosters with the FMCSA. And it really, I think it is absolutely remarkable the amount of lack of oversight that has gone on in this space for years and years, if not decades, right? Let me give you some background. It was 2012 that the industry came together to push Congress to create minimum training standards. Then in 2015, it finally made its way to the US DOT, and you had insurance companies, motor carriers, training organizations, safety advocates, everyone come together. So that was, 3 years later. Then it took almost 7 years from that, right? So you're talking about timelines that, when you get the Congress and the federal government involved, we're almost a decade to get things in motion. That's the glacial pace that these things operate in. And it's only been because of advocacy and, forceful requests on the part of organizations in the industry that we've even begun to see the enforcement of these issues. So it is, we're in a place now. I think that if there's reason for hope, it's that, as you sort of mentioned earlier, why can't we shut these places down? In December, I will tell you that a lot of these places have been shut down, and they have been shut down by virtue of the fact that the federal government is doing boots on the ground, in-person audits of these locations, and these folks are running for cover because when you shed sunlight on people that are doing 2-day training to get your CDL, 3-day training,
it's disgusting.
They run for cover. Yeah.
Disgusting. What are these illegals doing to wages of truckers, and what about the lie? In my opinion, clearly that illegals do the jobs Americans won't do. It's off-putting. It's disgusting to me to think about that truckers. Are you kidding me? Go ahead.
No, my brother's a truck driver. He's been doing it for about 3 years now. Absolutely loves it. My brother's a good American, doing a great American job. That's the thing that gets lost in all of this discussion. And I'm glad you mention it is, this is the idea that Americans won't do this job. That's absolutely ridiculous. This is where else can you go, and take, 4 weeks of training, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of training, and then walk into a job where your first year you can make $60,000, $70,000, and that's just the beginning, right? And that's what gets so many people, I think, interested in this job. I think that's why America really understood during COVID, like, my God, we need truckers. These are patriots. These are people who are providing a great service to the nation. It's an outstanding job and a career. And I think, you are seeing folks being undercut by the proliferation of folks like those people that you saw. You referenced in Florida or in California, causing these wrecks that have absolutely no training. Who knows who's hiring? Who knows what's going on? We've all seen the videos online where they pull somebody out of a truck. They can't speak a lick of English, and someone like that. I think we can all recognize it's not like they have a whole lot of ability to seek decent wages in the industry, and so those people are probably driving for next to nothing. They're completely illegal driving out on the road. Of course, that's going to undercut people who need to be, paid properly.
I just envision us coming home for Christmas or New Year's or coming back, and you look up at the trucker next to you and you nod. That person could be an illegal that's going to kill somebody. I appreciate you very much, Andy Poliakoff, for coming on the show, Executive Director of the Commercial Training Vehicle Association. Thank you for all the work you guys do.
Chris, thanks so much, and hope you have a happy new year.
You too, brother. Thank you very much. All right, coming up next, we are locked in